John from Ripewave Xpress back again with Marantz's latest AV receiver, the Cinema 30. This $4,500 unit has a lot of flexibility with the number of speakers and layouts it supports. And in this video, we aim to give you a little insight on how to go about planning for your speaker layouts and your configuration of this unit when you go through that initial setup wizard, or if you're going in editing your speaker layouts after the fact. Now this video continues our series, and we release these on both our full Ripewave audio and Ripewave Xpress sites. If you want more details on the points that are covered in this video, go check out the companion video on our full Ripewave audio site. As we have articulated before, this Cinema 30 fits between the AV10 and AV8805 and the Cinema 40. While it supports 2 less channels from the flagship processor, it has 2 more channels than the Cinema 40 or even the Cinema 50. And what can you do with those 2 extra channels? Now, this is also the equivalent of the Denon model, the AVRX 6800. If you're familiar with that, Cinema 30 is going to give you the exact same layouts. This unit can support between a 7.4.6 and a 9.4.4 layout. Now, in between those two, it has some Aural 3D layouts, and we're going to be covering how to accommodate those as well up to an Aural 13.1. These all support 4 channels of subwoofers that are independent, and that has no bearing on the bass ear level and height speakers that you can configure and select for this. When you get into the setup wizard, it reminds you that this unit is capable of handling more than 11 speakers, not counting your subwoofers, but there are only 11 amplifiers built in, so the 2 additional channels that it can support have to be handled through external amplifiers. And that can be done for a front left and right, the height 3, or the front wide speakers using the preamplifier outputs. We put this chart together so you can visualize how you can handle the height speakers. Now, heights can be ceiling speakers, and we show this in green with a green circle because they're usually round that are in the ceiling, or wall mounted speakers. We did this as a purple square, or Dolby reflective speakers we show as red or red triangle. If you only need 1 or 2 rows of height immersive speakers, you can fully use the base layers that this unit supports. That includes front wide speakers. So that equates to 9 channels at ear level, front left and right, center, side surrounds, rear surrounds, and the front wides. So we can leave those all enabled, and you can still do up to 2 rows, no problem, of any type of height speaker. If you want to support 5 or 6 height speakers, particularly if you're going to utilize Aural 3D layouts, then you're going to have to give up on your front wide speakers. Now, the good thing about this Cinema 30, as opposed to the Cinema 50 or the Cinema 40, is you don't have to disable your rear surround. Those can still stay active. If you want to do Aural 3D layouts, you're going to have 2 rows of heights, 1 in the front, 1 in the rear, and you have the option of doing a top surround and a front center height speaker, either one or the other or both. If you do one or the other, that's 5 channels, or both 6 channels. Now, alternately, you can decide to do 3 rows of speaker pairs for your heights, but that is not an Aural 3D configuration. Now, there are some combinations that Marantz does not allow, and this chart can be useful to you to understand where it won't let you configure a ceiling and a height. If you're configuring for the Aural 3D formats, on the configuration, it really forces you to configure it as a wall-mounted height speaker. Now, if you happen to have ceiling speakers and not wall-mounted height, you can still configure for Aural 3D. You'll just pick the nearest equivalent than what it allows on the interface. When you go through the configuration, it'll ask you if you have ceiling speaker, surround speakers, surround back speakers, how many surround back speakers, 1 or 2. It'll ask you if you have front wides. And this is where, if you want to use some of the Aural 3D formats, you'll have to say no in this case. While that does not prevent you from doing Aural 3D decoding, it just won't be the official Aural 3D supported layouts. If you happen to hit front wides, you're limited to just 2 pairs of height speakers as the screen is showing. But if you happen to disable your front wides, then you're given more choices, up to 6 speakers in the ceilings, and you have a choice whether that 6 speaker configuration is going to be with a top surround and center height, or if it's going to be just 3 rows of height speakers. And you'll be asked to configure for your room, and you'll be given those choices. Is it height mounted? Is it ceiling mounted? Is it ceiling mounted in the front, in the middle? Is it Dolby reflective speakers? So it's going to give you all these choices as you go through the configuration wizard, and you're going to pick the one that most closely resembles your configuration. If you want to do Aural 3D, here's the key to it. So if you're trying to get to a Aural 9.1, you're going to select 4 speakers, 2 pairs. That's with front heights and rear heights per the defined standards, and your rear surround and front wides will be disabled. If you want to do Aural 10.1, you will still disable rear surrounds and front wides. You'll choose a 5 speaker configuration, 2 pairs with top surround. If you want to do an official 11.1 Aural 3D, it'll be 6 speakers, 2 pairs, a top surround, and a center height speaker. If you want to do an Aural 13.1 configuration, you will then enable your rear surround speakers because it's finally letting you do 7 channels on your ear level with Aural 3D, as well as 6 speakers for the height, 2 pairs with top surround and center height. Front wide is still disabled. Of course, if you don't care about Aural 3D and you want to have 3 rows of height speakers, you can do that by setting to 6 speakers, 3 pairs. You'll go through for your subwoofer setups, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you can determine whether that subwoofer is going to be standard or directional. I recommend directional because if you don't do directional, Odyssey, including Mult EQ-X, will only allow you to treat that as a single subwoofer output, not independently controlled. So directional is important because Odyssey will then allow you to go to 2, 3, or 4 subwoofer independent outputs. The software will let you determine where your subwoofers are located, but keep in mind, as far as Marantz is concerned, the placement of these subs are very particular and they don't give you the full flexibility that some of you may require. Just choose the closest configuration. And my last piece of guidance is when you go into your amplifier assigns, make sure you set it to pre-out only if you're using external amplification. In our case, we're using all external amplifiers, so we set everything to external except for the front wides, which are using the internal amps of the Marantz. If you want to alternate between 2 different speaker layouts, they give you 2 speaker presets to toggle back and forth from. Once you get configuration 1 done, go into the presets, go to preset 2, and then do your second configuration. So if you want to move from a configuration with front wides, but less height speakers, you can have that for preset 1, and then preset 2 can remove the front wides and then give you some extra heights such as your top surround and your center height channel in the front. I think you'll find that the Marantz Cinema 30 has a lot of flexibility for speaker layouts, but you have to plan your configuration and setup so you get things exactly the way you need it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.